The following is a presentation of WON Sports.
You're listening to XFL Now on the Alternative Football News Network and WON Sports. Nick Anthony, Kevin Drake, and Michael Washington Weeks. XFL Now.
With a voice you're hearing ain't Nick Anthony's this week. And that's because Nick has commitments outside of the show that he needs to work with. So he has stepped aside. I am the producer Harry here at the Alternative Football News Network. And yes, this is XFL Now. It's going to be a little bit of a different show because I'm in the hot seat. I've got Michael Washington with me, and I've got Mark Angst with me this evening. Kevin Drake's taking time off also due to his work schedule. But tonight, we're going to have a very interesting conversation. Tonight, our conversation that you can get involved with at AFN Talk on social media everywhere you can think of, and at 310-876-8064. That's 310-876-8064. So, for weeks, the news, everybody was bitching about XFL team names. We don't have team names. We don't have team names. We don't have logos. We don't have this. We don't have that. So then the XFL decides we're going to release the team names. They released the logos of the team names, and now everybody's bitching that they don't like the team names. They don't like the logos. They look like they came out of a Madden game. The names are generic. They don't belong. So what do? Well, we follow the lead of Mark Nelson over at the XFL board, is what we do. Now, Mark did his research. He went through the trademark, he did a trademark search, and basically located the names of the potential names for XFL teams. And tonight, we're going to sit here. We're going to go through the list. We're going to discuss it. Is there a name that would be better suited for the team? Maybe, maybe not. What would we do? By the end of the night, folks, we're going to ask you to join us as we'll send out Twitter polls. Tonight or tomorrow, we're going to set out some Twitter polls. And what we're going to ask you to do is to pick the name you think better suits the team. And next week, we'll talk about it right here on the air. We're going to either decide to rebrand or go with the flow. Let it roll. Anyhow, I'm here with Michael Washington Weeks, AFN Live. He's also general manager here. Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Harry? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm talking XFL football. Mark.
XFL.
Mark
Harry.
Angst. Mark Angst. Excuse me. Angst.
Angst.
Mark Angst. You got to get that guttural in Angst. So, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, we haven't talked to you about the XFL, and we've got all this stuff with these names that's been going on. What do you think of the BS about the fans complaining we don't have names, complaining we don't have logos, and here we go now. Now we've got names, we've got logos, and people are still complaining. What do you think about that? What's that say about the fan base of football?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. People are talking. They're talking about the league. Puts the league, out on message boards and Facebook and here and there, and it just gives them more press. It's a good thing. Whether it's good or bad press is still press.
Well, I understand that, but isn't this reminiscent of WWE fans?
Oh, I mean, they kind of could be close, but
yeah, always complaining. You can't buy
football fans. We complain about everything. Football fans complain.
Sports fans complain
about the refs.
It's sports fans in general.
Exactly.
Because sports fans think they're smarter than the GMs and the people that are in the professional settings. That's all there is.
So the sports fans, those fans are smarter than Oliver Luck? I don't think so.
They think so.
They're smarter than Vincent Kennedy McMahon? I don't think so. He's a billionaire. He made his money the whole old-fashioned way. He earned that crap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because you're a billionaire, that doesn't necessarily mean you're smart. I mean, I can think of a billionaire off the top of my head that's not exactly smart. So
All right, we won't go there on this program. This is not as, yeah. Okay.
How about Paris Hilton?
Anyone feel like orange juice right now?
What was that?
I said, anyone feel like some orange juice right now?
A bag of Cheetos.
Bag of Cheetos. All right, bag of Cheetos. Flaming hot, or the cheap generic ones.
No, always the flaming hot.
Always flaming hot. Flaming hot Cheetos. Good stuff.
Baked
flaming hot.
Oh, baked. Yes, now you're talking my language, Mark.
All right. So
food. Yeah, that's
what we got. What we got was an announcement from Oliver Luck and several people in the media, various sources, some high-profile players in the game, making an announcement of the team names. Now, we're not going to go in order. We're going to go by what we've decided are going to be the possible divisions, and we're going to run north to south. So we're going to start our conversation off with New York. Now, the XFL, or probably Alpha Sports and Entertainment, they went to the trademark office, and they were looking up some names. They were going to trademark some things. So what they got was they have names here, which, I don't know, maybe are more appropriate than what we got. And let's take a listen at what we got.
Centuries carved of stone. Watchdogs over the metropolis. A prehistoric predator. A beast turned loose in a new kind of jungle. Teeth and talons. Eyes unblinking. They know fear because they feed off it. They're your first line of defense, and there is no need for a second. The New York Guardians, on duty, February 2020.
Now, look, I am going to go on record as saying that is, of all the team names, my absolute favorite, and it fits the city itself. I really feel that the Guardians, and if you understand that the logo isn't a gargoyle, but it's a lion's head, that because there are multiple gargoyles throughout the city of New York that look like lions, look in front of the public library. Those are gargoyles. They're there to protect. That's what a gargoyle does. So, legit, that is my favorite team name. I love it. However, hey, Michael.
Yeah.
What if the announcement would have been the New York Cannons?
That probably would have been my reaction, honestly. Out of all the unused trademarks, it's probably my least favorite for the New York set. Man, the New York Cannons, I don't know. I wouldn't understand it. I mean, the Guardians is my favorite, so maybe it's just because they couldn't live up to it. But the New York Guardians to me is my favorite, name as far as the team names go.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if it's just because the Cannons wouldn't live up to it. Now that we've gotten the Guardians.
Yeah, and I could see that name being placed with a different team that would make more logical sense. So, Mark, what if you'd have got the Cannons? What would you have thought if they came out?
That's horrible. The fact that was even a thought in someone's head. I hope they fired him, because that is a horrible team name. And there are some horrible ones throughout this list. That is one of the worst out of all of them.
Yeah,
Cannons.
I have to agree with Mark. It's probably one of my least favorites out of all of them.
And
Well, what are you going to do? Have a bunch of guys roll cannons out the entire game? No.
the Patriots have pulled cannons on the field before.
Yeah, but
They
Patriots,
use muskets.
they're not the Cannons.
Well, the cannons. They bring out an entire 22 rounds and fire them into the crowd on the first night of gameplay and cause a panic or something like that. That would be.
Tampa Bay Bucks use a cannon in their ship, which makes sense, but they're not called the Cannons.
The people have already complained about the logos. Could you imagine what this logo would look like?
Oh God.
Could you just imagine for 1 second what this logo would look like? Just take a minute and just visualize.
I
what
just
this
see
would look like on the side of a helmet.
I see the cannon on the wrist box. That would be the logo. That would be yeah. Cannons is not cool, and you got to find a correlation with the city. And I'm trying to figure out cannons, New York. Is that
No,
the
it
guns
doesn't.
carried by all the criminal entities in the city, or what?
No.
How do you represent that? How do you bring that into correlation with New York City? I mean, there's a lot of things you can say about New York. And the next thing that they potential name for the team is something that would have fit, but I think it would have brought us into a little bit of a conflict with a major comic producer out there, and that would be the New York Gothams, which I actually like the name. But there would have been some legalities there with comic book companies out there.
So for creativity points, I give this one a 5 on an Uber scale.
Okay.
Because New York Gothams is obviously Gotham. We talk about Gotham; it's associated with New York. But I don't quite understand it. I guess as much as why, like, what is necessarily a Gotham?
Yes, exactly. What is a Gotham?
Like, I understand that it's the DC correlation for New York, but as a nickname, what's yeah, exactly. I'm Batman. What's the Gotham?
The logo is the bat wing. The bat signal is the logo for the team.
See, I thought maybe this logo would be like a cool, like, I don't know.
It could be a skyline, like a
I feel like it would have to
skyline.
represent something to do with the criminals of Gotham, because what you mean?
You know
That
what?
makes more sense.
Think about
Right,
this:
you're right.
just a simple fedora on the side of a helmet, like a black fedora on a white helmet. Think
Maybe
about
they
that.
could get the Arkham symbol.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There you go. That's better.
Yeah, we'll just
I
go
just-
ahead and
for-
we'll pay royalty to DC every time we play a game, multiple times because we're on multiple uniforms.
Yeah, you're in New York City. They're making money.
Yeah, they're making money. I don't know. This one I mean, for creativity,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of my favorites for creativity. It's just what is Gotham's, like, how would you represent that, you know, in correlation to logo, team colors, you know, what does it mean? You know, I feel like this would be like one of those team names that you would have to go out and explain,
Okay.
and it just kind of like destroys, you know, what the purpose is. You know what I mean? I guess I don't know. That's
Well,
just how I felt about it.
The little video clips they did for the teams kind of did explain the names. I mean, they did explain them. It's just how do you explain something like that?
Right, like how would you explain something like that? Like mob, you know, like Italians, or you know, like whatever.
Yeah, I don't
It's a
think
big
that would go over
meatball
very
on the
well.
helmet. It's a big red helmet with spaghetti on it. The Gothams. The Gothams. Then everybody can complain. Oh, look, that's so interesting. Look, it's a plate of spaghetti with meatballs.
Make everybody hungry.
Yeah, and then you go to the stadium, and guess what they don't have? Spaghetti and meatballs, which is what you want. So,
They could though. I mean, they have all kinds of food at stadiums anymore.
hey, it's like ragu. It's in there. It's in there.
Heroes, I think they're heroes.
Cat's
over there.
Deli. We'll get Cat's Deli. They can put. No, Cat's isn't famous for their grinder. We got to find a place famous for its grinders. Yeah, we need.
That must be an Ohio thing, because
Do you know what a grinder is? It's a sub sandwich.
yeah, I got that from your clues,
It's hot.
but nobody calls
just
that
hot.
around here.
It's just a hot sandwich.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all a grinder
Yeah.
is. I like. I mean, for me personally, I don't mind it.
Really?
It's just not. Well, I don't mind it because it's not. I mean, it's not my favorite. I don't mind
See-
it just because of the fact that it does represent what New York is.
So
I
I've got
just-
going for him.
It
All
just,
has going for it.
yeah, it wouldn't be one of those that I would want to go ahead and just brand on my team. I mean,
No.
could you imagine like how dismal that would look?
What would the logo be? Again, would you make a
It-
logo for grind?
A hot
I mean,
sandwich.
You'd have to just do
Hot
it. Harry's clearly got food on his mind tonight, guys. Let's just clarify that for all you listeners out there. Harry wants food. He's hungry. Clearly.
Somebody send him some food. Uber eat him some food.
I don't know. What could you do with this? I mean, you could do the typical NY, you know, stuff that we see with
that would.
New York names.
That's the
You know,
LA thing.
You
Gross.
could do a G, but that's the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants. You know what I mean? Like, it really, the logo would just kind of be like maybe a hard hat
You could do a stripper on a pole.
A stripper on a pole, like a
the grind.
college mom working through, college, a single mom working through college.
Yeah. Anything like that.
A businessman walking up to his office, for the grind.
A briefcase. Yeah, anything.
Yeah, a top hat and suitcase.
A police car.
Yeah, a police car. Yeah, maybe. And I don't really know if that necessarily goes with grind as much.
Yeah, Anyway, now we have a name that, first off, the grind seems more like an arena team name or an indoor team name to me.
Yes.
And so does the next one, but I do like this name, the New York Power. And I could really see a logo for this team, like an electric, a tower with electricity coming out of it or something. That would be a sweet logo on a helmet. The New York Power. Michael, your thoughts on the New York Power?
Out of all the unused ones, this is probably my favorite. I still don't think it quite touches the Guardians, but it's just when you consider football and you think about the game, the play style, you think about a power running game or power defense, and it would fit that overall. And I think it captures New York to the sense of big city, bright lights. A lot of powerful businessmen come from there. A lot of powerful people have come from New York. So I think that this would fit. Again, I don't know if this is something that's on a professional level as much as it is an arena name. So I think that that's where the correlation would come in. It would be one of those that you'd have to just kind of like, I accept it. I accept it.
Of the other three, yes, this one is the best one. There's
of
those other three New York names, these are this is the best one. But it's still it doesn't do it enough. Where the Guardians, and that was a good choice. I will give them that was a good choice, especially when these were the four choices.
And I concur. I think the Guardians is the best name for this team. It really does. I mean, once you understand what the logo really is, then it makes a lot more sense. You know what I mean? It makes a lot once you realize it's a lion and not a gargoyle, because a lion can be a gargoyle.
Me and Mark also picked the Guardians for the Los Angeles, franchise. So we agreed that
You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
XFL Now.
And next we have, the announcement came. And this team, this is a letdown, I think, to a lot of people. This is one of the names that's getting...
They stand tall, unconquerable, unyielding, marching ever forward. A force united. One quest, one purpose, one resolve. Seeking glory through grit. Victory through valor. The DC Defenders, taking their stand. February 2020.
February 2020. The DC Defenders. I get the logic, but to be honest, it's a pretty pathetic name, and it's a pretty generic name if you ask me. There's so much more you could have to
video say the name DC Defenders. He does make it sound cool, but it's not.
No.
It's just his voice.
No, not when you consider they were trying to get a name like the Armada. DC Armada. I like that.
I like it. Again, though, I don't know if it's necessarily one of those that would connect with the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest issues with a team name like that. I mean, the DC Defenders, what it sounds like to me, I just think that there's a bunch of other names. I mean, we'll run down through the other three, but I just feel like there's a bunch of other names that they could have just picked in general for this entire grouping.
Well, give us one.
What for how about the Warhawks?
Well, the Warhawks.
But you have the Battlehawks.
Well, but again, see, St. Louis though with the Battlehawks thing, I think that they had another name in there that was better suited. But I mean, even if you didn't want to go that route and you wanted to keep it with the military, I mean, we picked the DC Heroes.
How about the DC Justice? How about DC Justice?
DC Justice. I think DC Justice might be along the lines of like the New York
DC Justice, Justice League.
DC. League, DC, yeah.
I don't know. That would have flown very well.
But, I mean, we picked the DC Heroes, which again is very close to like the comic book situation as well. But when you use DC as the name, though, you can't really get away from it. You know, I mean,
I think we said because we didn't know how they would go with it, so we went with Washington Heroes.
I think we went with the Washington Heroes, or Washington DC Heroes, whatever you want to. But we went with Heroes, and I think the Heroes would have been better suited than some of the team names that are here, personally. I mean, again, the DC Defenders is one of my least favorite names out of this, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed 6.5 of the team names.
All right.
The reason I don't like the Defenders is you play a part of the game on defense. So you literally named your team after a third of the game. Defense.
Right, yeah, that's a problem.
That's my problem with it. You went so simple. Not the offenders, but the defenders. There you go.
So just like the Armada, you're saying the Defenders can just float on downstream.
They sure can. Right down that Armada.
Right down that Armada.
And then writing in this could have been a cool logo, by the way, if they'd got with this name, the DC Knights. Now, I would have preferred it to be spelled N, not as in like the KNI, but more of a knight type of thing to
like nighttime.
Yeah, but the logo could be a knight, and just a twist on the name because of it's DC.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, my problem with this team name though is just again like one of the other team names we'll discuss in the Western Conference. It's a very well-used name.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, there's a professional hockey team with the name. And it sounds like for the most part, they tried avoiding professional team names on like the big five. I'll call it the big five. NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and the MLS. They tried avoiding a lot of those names. And the Knights with the Vegas Golden Knights, it kind of, everybody calls them the Knights. It just kind of, it's a little too close, I think, personally.
And perhaps
I could see that, but I do like the name. I think that's a really good name.
Yeah,
I like the name, but again, I think it's just too close.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Now, the next name on the list is a name that I kind of, this might have been better than Defenders, the Sentinels, DC Sentinels.
Well, it is better than Defenders. That's 100% correct.
It is, and this was one of the team names that a lot of fans wanted. But I think the problem with this one was that, if I'm correct, I believe it was already used in some sort of sporting.
It was in the movie.
Well, the movie first of all, the replacements, but it was also used in a sporting team located near DC at some point in time too. I believe it was like a minor league hockey team or something.
Okay.
Yeah, the movie was enough for me that I didn't want to use it for that reason.
Right, because everybody would have been making fun of it for the replacement side of things. But I actually do like the name though. It's just too bad it's associated with the replacements.
I agree. It's not a bad name, but it has bad thoughts that you're going to put with it.
In connotations. And finally, a name that I know I've heard the name before, the DC Stars.
No, it's the Dallas Stars in the NHL.
That's what I thought.
Again, the Dallas Stars in the NHL.
And now here's a quick question: Do you gentlemen think that it makes total absolute sense for the XFL to stay away from a name that has that already has some that's in place in a different league already? Is that a really smart move on the part of the league?
I think so. I think it's better for their branding to keep it separate of that, so that they don't get mistaken, especially when you go DC, Dallas, that's too close.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's smart, and I think the biggest reason it's smart is because it gives them a chance to stand out away from a lot of the generic names. I mean, how boring would it have been if they went out there and just been like, okay, well, we're going to go with the New York Panthers. We're going to go with the Tampa Bay Gators, even though Florida's right there. We're going to, you know what I mean? Like, if they had just ran down through a bunch of lists of like generic team names, which they do have one that sits out like a sore thumb. But if they had just done that with all 8 teams, it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have stood out. This allows it to stand out. And like we said at the beginning of the show, even though some of the names are catching a lot of heat, it's creating a buzz. It's creating people talking about it. Some names are growing on people compared to others. You know, some are losing steam, some are gaining steam, you know, stuff. So things like that is good for a league like this.
And I understand your points. Right now, we're gonna throw it to the fans and ask them, what are your thoughts and your opinions? Give us a call. 310-876-8064. Or reach out to us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram too. Michael's favorite social media platform, at AFN Talk. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to discuss the rest of the Eastern Division.
We'll return with more of XFL Now.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
Only you can prevent wildfires.
but I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
XFL Now.
Winged warriors. Preparing for flight. Preparing to fight. They await their orders, then attack as one. Dodging, swooping, striking. Their mission, create chaos. Their mandate, win at all costs. The St. Louis Battlehawks, cleared to engage. February 2020.
We're back, and St. Louis once again has a football team. Basically, yeah, they have a football team out there in St. Louis, and you know what? That's going to be one of the cities that's really behind their team, and part of it could be because of the name, because the Guardians is like perfect for New York, and then the correlation isn't there. I understand. I can see a correlation. But the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, if that isn't a damn football team name. Michael, your thoughts on that one?
So when the Battlehawks first came out, I was a little bit confused as to what necessarily a Battlehawk was. And I still haven't really quite got a clarification, but I love the team name. It's one of my favorites as far as what they have put out. And just the Battlehawks in general. It's such a football team name. Like the point of football is to be creative. Now you can make the argument, what's the correlation to St. Louis? You know, I mean, you could always make that argument for most teams professionally in general. But I love this team name. I think it's creative. I think it's the most creative team name. The Guardians is my favorite, but I think this is the most creative team name.
It's an interesting thought. Mr. Angst.
I'll agree it's the most creative. I'm not a huge fan of the name, but I love the logo. The logo is great. And then all the little like Easter eggs you find in their logo makes it even better. But the name's a little because what's a Battlehawk? What is it? Like, what is that?
Well, the logo, the color scheme, the little Easter eggs inside the logo, the name itself, for me, the whole package just really, does it. And I think that's the reason why I like the name so much, is because it's just the whole thing. I mean, I love that silver, white, and blue. It's a real clean look. You mix it with a creative team name, and then you add the logo, which is fantastic to it. It really, the whole package is on that with the St. Louis team. For that team,
it does seem to be the most popular, based off of social media that I've seen. You see, I think a lot of people coming out. I'm a Battle Hawk. I'm this. That's the one I've seen the most for sure.
I'm a Guardian, just so I'm rooting for the Guardians, and but I can't wait to see them play the Battle Hawks. That's going to be the Battle Hawks and the Guardians. That should be a good game. We got some names here, and I get some of them, but some of them I'm just lost, and I don't understand. Once again, folks, we're going down a list of names provided by Mark Nelson over at XFL Board. He wrote a really interesting article. He did the research, and we found it, so we're talking about it. Many thanks to Mr. Mark Nelson over there at XFLboard.com. By the way, if you want to chime in, tell us what you think of these names. 310-876-8064 at AFN Talk on all social media. Michael Washington Weeks monitors our Instagram for us, loves it, just adores it.
I kind of talked him into joining it. I almost got him.
I'm still thinking about it. Don't hold your breath, though, Mark.
So,
don't hold your breath.
Out the gate, we have a simple name, and this is a good name, but it doesn't seem like something that's... I mean, I get it. St. Louis Aces. Is that like Bob Orton? Because he's from...
Well, I think the first thing I will say about this is this grouping of four is creative and at the same time a random mesh of things. There's only one team name in here that I can associate with St. Louis, and that's it. And then the Aces, I'm assuming it's got something close to what they chose with the Battlehawks, judging from the package, with the airplanes and the jets and all that stuff. That's the only thing I can really think of. It has something to do with flight. Other than that, I'm not really sure where they were going with this team name.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Go ahead.
That's the same thing I thought. The Aces matched to the video, but other than that, I don't.
Like in my head, what I see is like a riverboat casino on the Mississippi there.
Well, I mean, and that would make sense too, but it didn't package go with the video.
You know, and then when I saw the name, I was like, I could see the logo.
The video probably would have been different.
I could see the logo being like a riverboat or something. That would
just probably be two aces.
Yeah,
super generic.
Or a big spade.
Yeah, or a big spade. Something along those lines. Ace of Spades is the most beautiful card in the deck, by the way.
You think so?
I do.
Okay. For the Ace of Spades, Ace of Hearts, Ace of Diamonds, and the Ace of Clubs, along with anything else when you're playing poker.
It's because you never know. The Rams left, so maybe the Battlehawks will leave.
Oh, no. St. Louis is going to eat up XFL football, dude. There is no doubt in my mind. The St. Louis games are going to be sold out.
They loved it.
It's going to be St. Louis XFL games will be sold out. They will be the highest.
Four cornerstone team. Mm-hmm. Because make no mistake about it, they're going to push Los Angeles and New York as the cornerstones, but it's going to literally end up being probably Houston, Dallas, St. Louis, and New York will probably be the four teams that really become the cornerstone for this XFL. Mm-hmm. And because they're going to draw the biggest fan base out of everybody else, they'll push Los Angeles and New York. But St. Louis is a missed opportunity for me here, and I think that might be the biggest reasons why I love this name so much, is because they could have really embodied all of St. Louis into XFL. They'll still show out, and they'll still show up for the Battlehawks. But if it was the Archers, you could have done so much more to represent that city.
I agree. The Archers is like the perfect name for this team. There's not much we can do about it, though.
Nope, not at all.
Can't change anything.
Change it. No, we can't. No, we can't.
That would be my personal rebrand, though.
Up next, we got a name that, I don't know, the Gray Wolves. This sounds like, I mean, if this team were up in Michigan, Minnesota maybe, St. Paul.
Canada.
Or a Canadian XFL team? Yeah, Toronto Grey Wolves. That would make sense. Or the Quebec Grey Wolves. See, so the expansion of this league is just where it can go. But the Grey Wolves, I get St. Louis. I get, I've been through Missouri, and I've been to St. Louis a few times, so I know I get it. I get it. But, Earl, once you get outside of St. Louis, maybe a city here, maybe a city there, but they're not very big. It's mostly a rural state, a farming type of place out that way. So I understand the correlation, but St. Louis itself, no, and more, no.
I agree, but I think it's better than Wildcats.
So we're going to have a discussion when we get to L.A.
This is my least favorite out of the five, if you include the Battlehawks. I still like it, though.
Agreed.
I think St. Louis as a whole, out of all five, got the best team names trademarked. It's a good team name. It just, for me, doesn't strike with St. Louis.
Yeah, completely agree with all that. It's a wonderful name, just not St. Louis. It would work probably almost at any other one. Because even if you put it as the New York one, gray, buildings gray skies, wolf pack, that just doesn't work for St. Louis. Doesn't embody them.
It doesn't strike me for St. Louis either. But it's a team name that the Grey Wolves is the name that they should definitely consider for an expansion team if the XFL chooses to expand.
Yeah, if you go north, that's got to be. It's like a northern name to me. It seems, like I said, Michigan. If you were to throw a team up in, go to Ann Arbor.
Grey Wolves.
Go to Ann Arbor and try to play at the stadium. They have the thing with TCU.
The Michigan Grey Wolves.
Yeah, that would be a badass name for a team, wouldn't it? Though, and play in Ann Arbor. Go to Ann Arbor and play at Ann Arbor. They love football in Ann Arbor. Then the next name, which I actually like, but I really think it would be.
I love this. This is probably my second favorite. I actually think I like it better than the Battlehawks.
The Phantoms?
The Phantom, yeah. The St. Louis Phantom. And I just think that it embodies. Again, though, I mean, it's definitely more suited for an indoor arena name, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. The reason I don't like it is because there is a minor league hockey team in Pennsylvania that already uses the Phantoms, and for me, it would just be too. It would just the core, the being close and it's here. It's not far from me.
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't work for me. That's
right.
That's the only reason I don't like it. Otherwise, it's a great name.
Right, and everything that I just described as far as the logo and everything is actually from the GDFL. There's a team in the GDFL called the Phantoms, and that's their logo. And it is wicked.
Gridiron development of football, nice.
Yeah, local team here in Ohio, where I'm at.
We'll return with more of XFL Now.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Now we're going to round out the Eastern Division of the XFL as we see it with the team, the name, the myth, the legend, and well, just listen to it for yourselves, listeners. Just listen to it.
In the shadows, they wait. Demons, born in darkness. Hunters, by instinct. Cold-blooded, by nature. Their bite, unavoidable. Their grip, inescapable. They slither and stalk their competition, luring all who challenge them into the jaws of defeat. The Tampa Bay Vipers, ready to strike. February 2020.
This is perhaps one of the worst, most generic names you could ever give to a professional sports team. This does not belong in a league like the XFL. There are so many other options you could have for the city of Tampa. You have a city that already has professional football in the NFL with the Buccaneers. Although not one of the best teams in the NFL, they do manage to pull in fans. Then we have, what we got? Do we have a basketball? We have semi-pro down there. Tampa Bay has a lot of professional sports teams and a few football team leagues out there that are in town. So the XFL bringing its game with something like this is not this name. It's not making a big impact with many people. It's very generic, very just. It's like a roll of the dice here. Michael, your thought?
Oh, judging from the other four on this list, it seems like most of them are kind of It feels like that they kind of just didn't really know what to do with Tampa Bay here. I feel like the creativity points kind of went out the window here. Mark and I, when we saw the little bit of the logo piece, we discussed Tampa Bay being the place for the Vipers, but we chose the Tampa Bay Venom.
That would have been a better name.
Just feels like it would have been a better direction to go than the Vipers, personally. Mark, is this going to be your team?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm going with New York. I like the logo, the name, the color scheme just better. I don't love what the color scheme for Tampa Bay either. It's just it's the yellow and the green. I don't really like it that much. There is one name on this list that I think is better. That I think is a little more creative than the rest of them and would have been a better choice. But Venom, I think, is the best choice. I mean, let's be real. But the Viper was a name everybody thought because looking at the logo, but they all thought it was St. Louis, and Harry knows why. There's only one reason why.
There's your connection. The apex predator.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we.
That's the only reason everybody put it for St. Louis. It made no sense for St. Louis. But everybody on Facebook, St. Louis, St. Louis. No.
Well, you got the name, but in a more appropriate place than St. Louis. That's for sure.
I agree. I don't hate the name.
It's generic. It's generic.
Yeah, it's there. It's pretty much there.
It's like this should be indoor arena. That's what this is the indoor arena leagues.
It's just literally one of those names. It's just kind of like I have to deal with this.
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
There is one name on this list that I think is way better.
Well,
I'm guessing it's the next one.
What, the Tampa Bay Frenzy?
That is the one. Yes.
You like the
Frenzy?
Frenzy?
That one is much better than the other ones, and the Vipers.
What would a logo for the Frenzy look like?
You can make it like a tornado a tropical storm eye, maybe.
That you could do something with the water, kind of like how they had in the video for Seattle. I think there's ways you could have went with that.
I don't know. It reminds me of a semi-pro football team.
Exactly.
But when you look at the rest of these, it's still better than Vipers.
Everything on this list is better than Vipers. But
I won't go that far.
All five of these team names are pretty. They're underwhelming. Once we get down a little further here, they're underwhelming. They're super. And the Tampa Bay Frenzy is probably the most creative, but again, it sounds like a semi-pro football team more than it does in XFL.
Follow St. Louis.
You know what? Tampa Bay
did to here.
Tampa Bay would have been better suited with the Armada, the Tampa Bay Armada.
They could have done that.
That would have been. Well, it's around water. It's the water thing. Armada, water. It could be
But you have the
battleship.
Buccaneers, and then you're gonna have the Armada. I think that's too close.
Why not the Tampa Bay mystery ships?
Yeah, no.
The schooners, the Tampa Bay schooners.
Wasn't that like a thing out there?
The Tampa Bay aircraft carriers.
Battleship.
The Tampa Bay battleship.
The battleship of
sunk
Tampa.
my battleship.
They'll be going off air. The battleship have went down again this week. But we could have had the Tampa Bay Predators.
Nashville.
Another generic team name that's already got a hockey team. Oh. So generic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Like literally, it was just like, how lazy can we get?
Oh,
There's
that's
just strangers out there.
I don't think
I
that
don't
was
know.
the point.
One of these other ones is pretty lazy along with it.
I'm pretty sure all of these are fairly lazy.
Two of them
So
are a
that's the
little.
difference.
Well, no, even there's one that's a little more creative, but two of these names are just like. You know what? All 3 out of the 5 are very lazy. Viper, Predators, and one of the other is very lazy.
Which one? The Tampa Bay Sharks?
Yes, that's lazy.
Why?
Come on. The Sharks.
So lazy.
The Sharks.
Plus, it's another hockey team name.
It is, yes. Wasn't it also a name from a movie too? From a football movie?
That was the Miami Sharks in Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. It's come on. That's just even lazier.
But how can you not say that the next one is more creative when it's so close to another team in Florida?
Am I missing a team in Florida?
You are, apparently.
I must be. Oh yeah. They're just the Rays, though.
Yeah. What do you think a Ray is?
Stingray. Yeah. But I still think Stingers is way more creative than Sharks and Predators.
So Tampa Bay Stingers.
Vipers.
Tampa Bay Stingers. Let me look down my list real quick here. I want to see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 WWE references in the Eastern Division for these possible trademarks with the Stingers. Stinger. We have of course, we have the Vipers with Randy Orton. And then if we go up our list here, what else did we have here that I found? The Aces. With Bob Orton.
The Predators for Apex Predator Randy Orton
again. Predators for Randy Orton again. So there's a lot of references back to St. Louis here. So they might have just really screwed the pooch there. Just saying. It's interesting, though, that we see these names, and there's nothing creative about these. These are all subpar Kevin Dunn type ideas. What do you think? I mean, you both picked the Venom, and I understand, you're trying to correlate, but that isn't what Tampa Bay is. Okay, Tampa Bay is a resort town. It's not swampy
you have to remember. You have to remember too, Harry. We picked our team names off the teaser videos and the teaser logos.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget that. I mean,
we saw the swamp and it was Tampa. There was no other choice.
Yeah, there was no other choice when we saw the swamp. I mean,
crocodiles, alligators were out. That's
crocodiles, alligators, rattlesnakes.
They're all out. They're
at least they didn't
birds.
do the Tampa Bay swamp.
Oh God. Surprised it's not one of the names on here.
Yeah, right.
Oh God.
Oh my God, that would be so bad.
Oh, that would not be good. Tampa Bay. We're here in Tampa Bay in the swamp with the Swampers. Everybody's got swamp ass.
Swampers.
The Swampers. The Tampa Bay Swampers.
Oh my God.
Tampa Bay. What do I think of when I think of Tampa Bay, Florida? I think of, the Buccaneers.
Exactly.
To be honest, that's about the only thing.
It's hard because it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and it's the Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL. They had an indoor arena team called the Tampa Bay Storm. UCF are the Knights, which is located in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like
you have South Florida, which is the Bulls. They use Tampa Stadium.
Yeah,
UCF's in Orlando.
That's right. UCF. Sorry, that's right. It's South
Florida.
But
you have to use all the Florida. There's so many Florida teams in general for so many different sports that I kind of get why they were generic. Because what are you gonna do in Florida anymore? I think it's time to just stop going to
What
Florida.
about tying the team to the actual state and calling them the Tampa Bay Keys? Referring
but that's
to
Miami.
I understand
that's not
but they don't
Tampa.
have a team in Miami. But that would correlate to that it's Florida's team, the Tampa Bay Keys. Miami, and by the way, the Keys don't belong to Miami. They belong to the United States. They're islands.
I get that. They're bound by Miami, though.
But you see what I'm saying? It's a way to link the state. It's not really. Tampa Bay is down toward the middle of the state. But you could have called them. I mean, we already have teams called the Hurricanes and that. The Gale, the Tampa Bay Gale. Like gale force winds coming off the ocean. Gale, a Tampa Bay gale, a gale rushing down the field.
That's a college team name, I think. The Gales.
That is, but I think it's up further. The Iona Gales.
It's somewhere up north, I feel like.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? There's other things they could have looked at in the environment. The Tampa Bay, I don't know, beaches. I don't know. The beach bums. Tampa Bay beach bums.
But every
the Tampa
name
Bay
you've given,
white sand.
You know what? Let's do some throwbacks to older football names like the Panhandlers. That would
just call them Tampa Bay Disney World.
The Tampa Bay Musketeers.
The Tampa Bay Musketeers.
Mouse. MOCMICKEY.
How about the Tampa Bay Cannons?
No. Let's see if we can find a name for Tampa Bay through the rest of the Tampa Bay Stars.
Both of you all at once. No.
The Tampa Bay Gothams. No. The Tampa Bay Grind. The Tampa Bay Power. The Tampa Bay Power. The Tampa Bay Armada. The Tampa Bay Knights. The Tampa Bay Sentinels. The Tampa Bay Stars. The Tampa Bay the Tampa Bay Grey Wolves. The Tampa Bay Aces. The Tampa Bay Vipers.
We have the Vipers. We can't change it, so we just have to accept it.
That's why they're not my team.
If you could rebrand, listeners, if you could rebrand this team, if you could give it a new name, you got to say so. What would it be? Let us know. AFN Talk, Twitter, Facebook. Find our page. Just look up, AFN Talk. Google us at AFN Talk. You'll find us. We're there. Somewhere in the interweb.
You've been listening to XFL Now, which has been a production of the Alternative Football News Network and WON Sports. The executive producers for XFL Now are Harry M. Bob III, Nicholas Anthony, and Jonathan Rios. Find the XFL Now on social media at XFL Now Radio. Like the Facebook page. XFL Now Radio. Follow us on Twitter. Stay up to date with the best in professional semi-pro, indoor, and arena football talk, and listen in sightly for new and original alternative football talk at afnn.net.
You're listening to the WON Radio Network.